When I was a little girl and my parents would have their friends over, I would get sent to bed early, as you do when you're a little kid. And when I did, I would curl up on the edge of my bed and listen to them tell stories. I've always loved listening to people tell stories. And I sort of realized that I didn't hear as many from my dad as I did from my mom. That's kind of what inspired this project. I also realized that I've lived in one house my whole life and my dad has lived in about 12 or 13. That's when I decided I wanted to go on a road trip with my dad to visit all the places that he lived growing up and before I was born, while telling a lot of stories along the way. So we packed up the car, brought along my best friend Christian, and headed across the island to figure out where we belong.
Do you want me to use my title? I can say
Yes.
I'm Dr. Jeff Vino.
Okay.
I was born and raised in Corner Brook, Newfoundland, and I now live in St. John's, Newfoundland.
How do you feel about doing this project with me?
Oh, I'm fine with it. We've talked about it a lot, and I've thought about it a lot. So, but every time I try to think of, where I've lived and how many places I've lived in, I seem to come up with a different number. So I'm not quite certain, Road trip, day one.
I don't do too much talking these days. These days I seem to think a lot about the things that I forgot to do.
The Grand Falls house is the first place I remember actually that I have memories of, you don't have any memories before you're about 5 years old that I can remember. We lived on Church Road, which I think is probably the first place that my parents actually owned the building. They owned the house that was there. My father went there to start up a new Ford dealership. And there was a baseball field across the road. If you found a baseball, you could turn it in and get 10 cents for a baseball. So I can, it's so plain, it's funny. I mean, that's such a long time ago, and it's as plain as day in my brain, seeing that baseball on the front yard and running down and grabbing it, getting it, right? I got my dime and went back and told my father, and my father said to me, at first I thought it was kind of a mean thing to say. He said to me, you should have kept the baseball. The baseball's worth more than a dime. And I'm thinking, I'm a kid, I'm thinking, what am I going to do with a baseball? I didn't play baseball with my father. I didn't play baseball. I had no use for a baseball. But I don't think he did it out of meanness or anything. I think it's just, it's just a simple statement of practical fact. And I worry now that I've done that to you and Ian at some time where I started taking all the joy out of something by saying something stupid and practical instead of just listening to what your concern was or what the issue was, right? So yeah, it's sort of my most vivid memory of that house in Grand Falls. Tour operators. Yeah, this would be a big mound. Look at this sawdust. I mean, this would be a big mound of pulpwood, like huge mountains of it, and a big mound of sulfur. The next place was Pleasant Street. So Pleasant Street is the house with the golden ticket. But this is where we got the free ticket. I keep telling Nora it's the golden ticket. Yeah, the golden pass, right? Like Willy Wonka. Well, that field up there, you can see it there. It's still a field. It's still an empty field. That was just an empty field. It's a baseball field now. But that's where, like, Thomas Amusement. I don't think it was called Thomas Amusement then, but that's basically what it was. It was amusement. It was rides and games and stuff like that. And they ran a hose down to the house. And when they did that, they asked permission to do it. And when they did that, they gave us a free pass. I don't know how many we were allowed to take, but I mean, I remember taking, we could just point down those there with us, right? And we'd show them the pass, and we'd get on whatever ride we wanted to.
You used to tell me that it came out of the hose.
What came out of the hose?
The ticket.
No, I never told you that. What, like the ticket came out of the hose?
Yes.
No, I never told you that. But it always sort of reminded me of my aunt Edna, who basically was like a grandmother to us. She used to tell us a story about a kid who ran away to the fair, ran away to the circus. I just remember the feeling of, you know, going to bed and having my aunt read me this or tell me the story. She had it memorized. She'd tell us the story.
Do you remember if the little boy had any success at the fair, or was it like a
I'm
horror
pretty
story?
no, it wasn't a horror story. No, I'm pretty sure. No, I have nothing but you know, warm feelings when I think about that story, right? So, and the lights and stuff. She described the lights and the smells and stuff, and then, you know, he always came home. No, he was found or came home in the end. I'm pretty sure. Do you want to hear the story about the graveyard down in Curling? Yeah. There was a stake, like this metal post in the ground that we call the Devil's Stake. And it was like a metal post and it had this sort of strange shape on the top of it. And if you held on to it, you would go weak and fall to the ground. Right? And of course, every time you did it, you felt weak in the knees and you'd fall to the ground. Silly things.
Being a kid.
Yeah, you're just being kids, right? I seem to recall it was like over here somewhere. Like the iron stake was like in like a little pile of bushes. There's always seemed to be bushes around it. I can't imagine we would have gone in very deep into the graveyard when we were kids. No, I don't see anything that I recognize. No, I don't see anything. Oh, long gone, I would guess. Oh, let's go.
What? I need to zoom out.
Now, this is where we had the pet crow. Like I said, I want to see if Natalie remembers this or not, but the crow just came and went, whatever it went. It just, you know, it would fly around, it would come back. We fed it, it had a little cage there that we put it in and stuff like that. And it would store stuff underneath the ledge of the, like shiny stuff underneath the ledge of the steps, right?
Yeah.
We went on vacation, packed up the car, put everything in the car, and that crow swooped back and forth in front of our windshield of our car as we drove down the road. We got to the end of Allen's Road and the crow went up on the light pole and never came back.
It sat there.
Yeah.
That was it.
And then when we came back from holidays, the crow never came back.
Every now and then, because remember he jumped in the bucket of paint, Jim Allen, in the roundhouse there, I think. It's Jim's,
Yeah, he landed in a bucket of
he
paint.
landed in his bucket of paint.
Yeah,
and
he had
white on it.
Yeah.
And Jim had it all over his glasses and everything.
He landed on Jack Boland's
Jack
head.
Boland's head down in the bus stop. Yeah.
Standing by me, ball, right? He's standing there at 6 o'clock in the morning, so I'm waiting for the bus. And the crow landed on his head.
Not so swift, the rain's pouring in. We're gonna see a movie called Gone Get In.
And there's the backyard of St. Clair Avenue. What is this
No,
again?
that one, that was the flat up above.
Yeah, one of
The
those
store.
little, yeah.
Yeah, that was their
Lincoln Road, Silva,
Silva
and
church.
Church. That's Aunt so-and-so, that's Granny, that's so-and-so. Who is that guy? Nobody's going to know. Obie, is it?
Yeah.
In Grand Falls before renovation.
Wait, Smith.
So that's St. Clair Avenue. So that's the last place I lived with my parents. I went from here, we went to junior high from here, high school, first year university, and then actually you can go to university for 2 years here at the time, and then into St. John's. So I would have left to go into St. John's when I was like 18 years old or something. From that point on, I never really lived on St. Clair Avenue anymore, you know. You'd be home for a couple of months in the summer, but then you're working all the time. So, you know, you're basically just sleeping there, you know, sleep there and then leave, you know. And then finally, I got a job and moved into St. John's. After I finished my degree at university, I couldn't find a job. I decided to go back to school, so I went to Lindsay, Ontario. I would have come back here. That would have been when the times when I would have lived on Black Marsh Road and Suez Street and Mount Cashel Avenue. And I started dating your mother, and then I left Mount Cashel and went to Bannerman Street. And then your mother and I decided to get married and moved to Peterborough. And lived on Polina Road for a little while. Not much happened there, and then bought this place. And you were born very soon afterwards.
We never did nothing after that.
No,
No moving.
no, that's it. So, how does it feel to be on the other side of the camera?
Horrible.
Okay, so you were born and raised in this house. You've lived here your whole life, coming on 22 years now.
hmm
Do you have any early memories, like first memories?
I do remember like when we had Teddy,
Right.
and I remember running around with Teddy, and I remember the time that I drove the kite pole up into my mouth.
Yeah.
And I remember being in the hospital with my princess dress on during that, but I don't remember
You were saying.
much else.
So you're going to graduate next week. Do you see yourself living here for a while longer?
I have this journal that's a 5-year journal, and every year it asks you a new question every day, but then you go back and you answer the same question on the same day every year. And one of the questions is, where are you living right now? And for the past 3 years, I've had the journal. It says, with my parents, with my parents, with my parents. But this year, when I answered it, I said, with my parents, but hopefully not soon.
You've done quite a bit of traveling. You've been to Africa, Europe, down in the States, been across Canada. Have you ever considered sort of leaving not only your home, but your home province, home country?
I've never thought about living in a different country. But the only place I've considered like moving to is to BC. And it's like, it's so beautiful over there. The weather is so nice. There's so much to do. That's the only place I've considered moving. Newfoundland is like, I always think about leaving Newfoundland. And then I think about how familiar it is and how much like I've lived here my whole life. So I always think about how much I hate it here sometimes. But then I think a little bit harder and I like love it here so much.
I was watching this show about Fogo Island, and they asked these people what it was about islands, right? People who live on islands. And what does it mean to be a Newfoundlander, right? And they didn't really know how to answer it. But I think belonging is exactly what it is. When you're a Newfoundlander, you know you belong somewhere.
Hey, watch.